Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Marguerite with Wreath by Marguerite. Today I'm teaching you a tutorial on how to make the newest kit in my shop, which is the Happy St. Paddy's Day wreath. This is a waterproof sign, so it's going to hold up to the elements really well. It's done in the storm door style. What is storm door style? It's also called pancake because it's so thin. This is designed to go in between a storm or a screen door and your regular door without smushing it. Okay, see how thin that is? But yet when you look at it from the front, it looks very fluffy, doesn't it? So stick around, follow along. If you buy the kit, this is something that I would recommend you watch twice. One time before you even get started, take some notes, and then go back and watch it again while you're assembling it. It's great because you'll be able to stop and start it as you go. So there you have that, everybody. Okay, so let's first go over the product and the tools. I'm going to start out with the sign. This is a waterproof sign. I've gone ahead, if you're purchasing the kit, attached pipe cleaners and cable tie mounts to the back of the sign. Cable tie mounts are little square blocks, 1 inch in each direction, 1 inch by 1 inch. And I've taken 2 pipe cleaners, cut them in half, and attached it to the cable tie mounts. So that is your sign ready to go, and it'll be like that if you purchase a kit. Important note, anytime you can't staple a sign, meaning staple your pipe cleaners in a sign, is when I use the cable tie mounts. All the metal signs, unless you can punch holes in them and attach them where the pipe cleaners are on the sign, I mean on the base, you can do that. But sometimes it's just not in the cards to be poking holes in things, and I don't like to do that in the waterproof signs. I always use super glue underneath of the cable tie mount. Let me hold it up so you can see it a little closer. That's what's going to hold the cable tie mount on the sign. Then I add, excuse me, bless me, thank you. Then I add hot glue around the edge. Hot glue is not enough to keep this assembled in extreme hot or extreme cold weather. It's going to pop off. That's why you've got to have some sort of super glue underneath, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. So we'll put that back over here. We won't be using that for a while. Then you're going to have a base. Let me move this over here. This is your base. It's a 14¼ inch base with 4 rings on it and 12 pipe cleaners that I've already put on for you since this is a kit. It's important that it has to have 4 rings and 6 crossbars. Let me show you where they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because that helps with placement of the pipe cleaners so that you have them staggered evenly, the pipe cleaners staggered evenly. That way the mesh sits nicely and low and flat, which is what our goal is to achieve with the storm door wreath. So the first 6 pipe cleaners are attached to rings 1 and 2, outside 2 rings, at the crossbar. The crossbar helps hold the pipe cleaner in place. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then on the inner 2 rings, rings 3 and 4, we're placing the pipe cleaner in between each of the crossbars. So there's 6 more there. And when you attach them here, you want to put a little more pressure on your twist so that it doesn't sway back and forth, move back and forth on the rings, okay? That keeps them in place. All right, so when we start with our wreath, we want to make sure all of our pipe cleaners are horizontal to us when we're ready to put our mesh in. I always try to do this before I get started so that I can not need a third hand. You'll understand if you do this and get a better idea once I start. If you notice, I'm turning the wreath frame around and putting the pipe cleaner that I'm working on directly in front of myself. That makes it easier to remember which direction to put your mesh and ribbon in. Plus, it allows you to not contort your body and reach all over the table. If you're standing, it's not as crucial, but I still like to turn my wreath towards me where I am working on. So what section I'm working on, I want directly in front of me. I hope that makes sense, okay? So that's that. And then last but not least, we're using 3 ribbons on this design that you'll have in the kit if you purchase the kit. I chose to go with 3 2.5-inch wide ribbons. I'm breaking up 2 patterns with the white solid. I like to do that. I chose them based on the colors in the sign. That's your guiding principle for choosing ribbon. I could have done all 3 designs instead of 1 solid, but I decided to mix it up. I also could have used thinner ribbon, which is, let me see, I still have a couple pieces from the last project here. Pardon. Sit back down. So I could have changed this out with one of these. And I could have even gone with one of these. So I could have done 3 1.5-inch, no, 2 1.5-inch and 1 2.5-inch ribbons. Or I could have done 2 2.5-inch ribbons and 1.5-inch ribbon. But I chose today to go with all 3. The more of the 2.5-inch ribbon that you use, the more coverage you get of the mesh. So since it's just a solid colored mesh, I'm not so concerned with very much of it being seen. Your mesh is the solid foundation to your wreath, often referred to, especially by my mentor, as the bra. It's the solid support for the rest of your wreath. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. This has all been folded, pre-folded for you. You'll either get 1 or 2 bundles of each, depending on where on a roll of ribbon that I pull it from. Sometimes a roll of ribbon gives you about 2.5 wreaths worth of ribbon. So usually I can make 2 full bundles unless they send me a roll that has been pieced together. Then I have to pull that piece out. Long story. Won't get into it here. So the bundles of ribbon I have here today, I was able to all cut in 1 single bundle. So this time, whoever purchases this kit, I believe all of them are a single bundle for each ribbon. They are folded for you already at 12 inches, which is the length that you want your ribbon tails to be. You can go longer to 13 and 14. I don't recommend 14, but that's up to you. 13 is a nice middle ground too as well. But this is the standard sizing for it. You get 13 pieces of ribbon of each kind, each style, so that if you do make a mistake, you have at least 1 to replace the boo-boo with, okay? I recommend if this is, if you're a new wreath maker, or this is even your first wreath you're making, follow these directions precisely as far as processing the ribbon, cutting it and such, because the way I teach you in this video is 1 piece at a time. That way you don't ruin your entire stack of ribbon and then you're out of luck. It just makes more sense. Even I, most of the time, still do it that way. Okay? Alright, so 12 pieces you need. You get 13. So 12 pieces of ribbon are needed for the 12 pipe cleaners, which means you need 12 pieces of mesh. Okay? 12s are a common number in this project. So you're going to get 13 pieces of mesh, just like with the ribbon, 1 extra just in case. This is what's called deluxe wide foil mesh. It is a 10-inch mesh, and I've pre-cut all the pieces for you at 20 inches. So all your pieces need to be 20 inches. You really don't want to go any smaller or any larger because of the way that you put them on the wreath, okay? So there are meshes that are 10 1/4, 10 1/2, and 11 inches wide. Just be cognizant of that if you're using multiple colors on a wreath. You'll understand what I mean if you go back and watch my Mardi Gras wreath. The gold mesh was 11 inches, so I had to be very careful to make sure the mesh was put in the frame properly so it didn't stick out more than the other colors that I used. So there's that. Okay, so We're going to start with the frame and the mesh. So I'm going to move the ribbon and the sign out of the way for now, and we're going to start with this 2 pieces. Alright, so this brings us to tools. What you're going to need to make this is a pair of scissors. My favorite are the Fiskar brand. That's what I use, and these are only used for ribbon and mesh. Okay, to cut mesh, I always use a rotary cutter. You can use scissors if you don't have one when you're starting out. Make sure you have a cutting mat if you use a rotary cutter. It's very important. It's nice too because it protects the surface you have it on. You don't want to chop up your table. There's that. This is usually found in the area where your quilting supplies are because it's used to cut fabric too. Okay. That's not a necessity. Scissors will work. You're going to need a pair of wire cutters. These I purchased from Deco Exchange. Scissors, these, and needle nose are generally something you find around the house, so initially you don't have to invest in a lot of tools. A chip clip of any sort, a little wooden dowel, or if you don't have a little wooden dowel around in craft supplies, use your pen or pencil. That's the diameter we're looking for this project. I also use what's called a embroidery needle. This one is 6 inches. Let me bring this in so you can see a little better. This is a 6-inch embroidery needle. It's plastic. They make metal ones as well. This is what I use to feed the pipe cleaners through the mesh on the back of the sign so that I don't have to struggle. You'll understand if you've made wreaths, and if you haven't and this is your first time, you'll understand. You'll find out soon enough. So that's all the basic tools. I don't need the Sharpie for this, but yeah, those are all the tools we're going to need. And a ruler if you don't have one of these. If you don't, I'm going to be showing you the way to ruffle the mesh without the ruler. Okay, so I put this out of the way. First thing you want to do, which I already started, is you want to bring your frame in front of you and make sure all of your pipe cleaners are sitting horizontal to you. And I recommend highly that you work only on the pipe cleaner that's directly in front of you. Don't try to work on it way over here or way over here. Bring whatever one you're working on over to you. Okay? So we're going to put in the first 3 pieces of mesh. There are 6 pipe cleaners on the outside. So that means we're going to put one in every other pipe cleaner, and then we're going to go back and do the other 3. Doing it that way gives it a little more of a pattern, and it helps it to stay flatter. Okay, so let me set that to the side. I'm going to work on that one right there first, and I'm going to lay my first piece of mesh out on the table, curl side down. I like to use the edge of the table to unroll it. Okay, and if you have a ruler, you can measure to the 5 inches and clip it there. You want to find your center, is what I'm getting at. Or you don't even have to have a ruler. That's one less tool you have to invest in if you don't already have one laying around the house. All you have to do, literally, is fold your mesh in half to find your center, and then you clip it there. This is a solid color mesh, so I find that it's most important on the solid colored mesh to put a clip at the top so you can find your way more clearly when you're ruffling this mesh. If you have a mesh that has a pattern to it, a lot of times there will be a design where there's a line right down the center. That visual tool helps you ruffle straight up the center as well, because it's easy to get off to one side or the other when you're ruffling, especially on the solid color. That's the main reason at this point that I leave the clip at the top of the mesh when I'm ruffling. So now we're going to bring it down here, fold it in half to find my center, and we're going to ruffle all the way up to the clip. All right, you want to leave your thumbs on the outside of the mesh and then take the rest of your fingers and just gather all the way up. If it bothers you that the mesh is lifting up and moving around, you can always put something on that end. I usually use my phone, but we're filming today. That holds it down better so that it doesn't flip up on you, because it can happen, especially and I'll show you. Especially when you get to the center of the roll, the curls are much tighter, so they're more difficult to maneuver. Not impossible at all, but more difficult to maneuver. So I'm going to continue to ruffle up. You can either ruffle towards the clip or bring the mesh down as you're ruffling it so you're not extending your arm and back so much. So now I have it ruffled completely. I now have put the center in my thumb and forefinger loosely so that if I need to make any adjustments to the mesh, I can without doing any damage to the mesh. The goal is that you want the cut edges to meet evenly. You don't want this one way down here and that one way up here. So you would, if that were the case, you'd want to tug on the mesh right by your fingers to get it in position. So I'm going to look, these are slightly off. So if you need to adjust the mesh, you pull it from down where you're holding it. Never, ever, ever, ever pull your mesh from the outer edge because it will change the design and make it curvy in, like for example in this one, the tinsel that's in there. It's not the end of the world, but it makes it look like it's damaged in my opinion. So we always pull the mesh closest to the hands because down in here, in the center near your fingers, it's going to be hidden by everything in your wreath. But the less you have to do that, the better. Mesh does fray. There's no avoiding it. There are alternative ways to cut it, but even that is not 100% guarantee. It just is what it is, so the less you handle it, the better. So now we're going to bring the frame over, now that we have our circle. And since the pipe cleaners are horizontal to us, we're going to put the mesh in vertically. When I build a wreath, turn it a little bit to the side, but it's still the pipe cleaner that's in front of me. And I take the other hand, so I have it spread out enough, and make sure that I put it in the pipe cleaner right next to my finger, thumb and forefinger, so that it's centered in the pipe cleaners. You can probably see now why I say you almost need a third hand. So we're going to put this on here and twist it very tight and low. 1, 2, 3 times. Why tight and low? Our goal is to make it a storm door or screen door or pancake wreath, whichever verbiage you'd like to use. I call them storm door wreaths. Anytime I call them pancake wreaths, people joke and say, "Oh, is it something you can eat? Ha ha ha." I just decided I wanted to avoid that joke over and over and over and over again. But that's the traditional original name for it. But we're going with storm door wreath, okay? So by keeping it tight and low, it keeps it thinner. It's not as deep because we want to keep this wreath under 4 inches so that if it's going on a storm door, on a door with a storm door, then it's going to fit without smushing it, okay? So I've got it, and I'm going to lift the pipe cleaners up and out of the way because I'm not using them at this point. And I'm going to bring the outside cut edge of the mesh over the inside cut edge. The outside cut edge over the inside cut edge of that mesh. And then I'm going to make sure it's a nice circular shape on the outside for sure. Hopefully all the way around. Not as crucial in here because this is all going to be hidden. So once I've got the circle, I try to turn my mesh under on the outside edge. That helps to hold it in place. See, I'm pulling it up by the pipe cleaner to adjust it because it wasn't a perfect circle. So I hold the pipe cleaner so that it doesn't untwist while I'm pulling on the mesh. And up closer to the pipe cleaner is where I'm making adjustments. So I need to pull it on this side to bring this one in. So I'm going to go over here and grab up by the base of the pipe cleaner and slightly adjust that. Okay, I think we're good. Let's do a little bit more here. There we go. All right, I think that'll work. Is that working? Okay, I know it's popping up there, but that's going to go away once everything else is in the wreath. So you see there? There's our first one. Remember I said we're doing every other, so we're skipping that one. So this will be the next one. Using the table to unroll it, curl side down, folding it in half again. That's my center. Folding it in half down here, finding my center and then ruffling up the center. The first 3 I'm going to do with both hands ruffling all the way up, and then I'm going to show you the second way that I do it, which is the way that I do it most of the time, doing the ruffling, that is. I find it works just fine and it helps hold down the mesh. You'll understand in a minute. So that's a little bit off, so I'm adjusting that. I still am holding it loosely in my thumb and forefinger. This one's about 1 inch off, so I need to pull on this side a little bit to even that up. There we go. We got a circle. Let's go over here. Remembering your pipe cleaner is horizontal to you and your mesh is going to go in vertical to you. Place it in there. Bring that pipe cleaner up on both sides, right next to my finger and thumb. Twist it tight and low 2 to 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Lift that pipe cleaners out of the way. Take the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. The outside cut edge on this side over the inside cut edge. Okay, and then you're going to make sure everything looks like it should. Make any adjustments. If I need to make any adjustments, I'm going to grab the mesh up by the pipe cleaner. I want to make sure this is nice and round. So let's see that. Let me look at it in the video. Yep. Okay. Now, I haven't addressed it yet. Why am I making sure the outside cut edge is over the inside cut edge on each side? That is to minimize the opportunity of fraying going forward. Like I said, mesh always frays. It just is what it is. But the less cut edges that are exposed, the better and less likely there's going to be any kind of fray. Having it exposed makes it more apt to fray. So there's the reason why we do that. Okay, let's go to the next one. We're skipping this and we're going here. Using the table to unroll the curl. Curl side down. Fold in half. Clip here. Come down here, fold in half, find your middle. You might or may not notice the details like I do. Most of the time my finger is already at the center because I've been doing this so long. Just, you know, you get to know because of the repetitiveness of this particular part of it. So thumbs outside the mesh. All the other fingers will ruffle it to the top. This is a stiffer mesh than some of the other because it has so much going on. It has the really thick tinsel in it. It makes for great coverage on your wreath. You can do thinner. You just want to make sure whatever mesh you use, once you've got 2 pieces on, you can't see the frame through the mesh at all. Okay? So I've got my thumb and my forefinger. I'm going to check my edges. Make sure they're even. Check them, check them, check them. Make sure that's all evened up. Make the adjustment. I'm going to bring it over here. Pipe cleaner horizontal to me. And the mesh is going in vertical to me. So there we go. Bring those pipe cleaners up. Tight and low, twist that pipe cleaner 2 to 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And you're going to bring the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, which is way off. I put it in way off. Holy Toledo. Okay, so I need to hold the pipe cleaners and bring the top up by pulling from the base. I could take this out and re-ruffle it. I'd rather not. So I usually just adjust it here, holding that pipe cleaner. Let's see where we are. I went the wrong way. There we go. Are we even? There we go. But it's still too short. It's too short out here and too long on the inside. So obviously I didn't center it very well when I put it in there. Nobody's perfect. This just shows you. let me see. Again, the center part, the part facing the center of the wreath frame, is not as crucial to be circular. If you're a perfectionist, and there's nothing wrong with that, you can, and you can't accept that it's not perfectly round, just work on it starting from the center. But again, remember, if you handle this too much, it can destroy the look of it, and you might have to use a new piece, but we don't want to do that. Is that even? Okay. Ruffling it enough helps too. Sometimes if you don't ruffle it enough, if you don't make your ruffles small enough, it can affect this too. I just handled that a lot, but I was careful and I did it all up here. So there's the first 3. Not much to look at yet, but it's a start. So now we're going to go back and make sure our pipe cleaners in the other 3, they're still in position. If not, adjust them. And we're going to do the next 3. I need a drink because I'm doing a lot of talking. It's very dry here in western Nebraska right now. So, all right, bring it up on the table, curl side down, fold it in half, clip at the halfway point. Any kind of clip will work, chip clip, binder clip, whatever you have. I'm going to use this because I liked it better when it was heavier up there. So I was pulling more when I was ruffling, okay? Fold that in half. This is cut straight, it's just how it's sitting on the table. Sometimes it makes it look like it's not straight, but it is. So I remember I said on the next 3 I was going to show you the other way that I ruffle. You still need your thumbs on the outside. You do still start with 2 hands to ruffle, but then I won't need this anymore because I'm going to put my hand up here and ruffle with 1 hand, making sure I keep those ruffles and gathers super small. The smaller the better. Some people actually try to fan fold as they're gathering it up. That works too. It's more tedious, it's a little more time consuming, but if that's what you like, then do it. Okay, I'm holding it loosely so I can adjust it down here. Same thing up here. How are we? Yep, we're good there. I like this side better than this side. It's my imagination maybe, I don't know. So I turned the frame a little to the other direction. All right, put this in vertically. And you can do that. Just like if you have a piece of mesh in here and you like one side better than the other, you can just simply lift it up and flip it. You don't have to take it out of the pipe cleaners or anything. You just turn it, okay? But bottom line, you still want it vertical to you. And you still need to make sure once you've done that, you take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. You now have mesh already in the frame, so you're going to be fighting a little bit, not much, to make sure that the new piece of mesh doesn't stick to it, the pieces besides it, till you're done. Because if I don't say it enough, mesh is like Velcro, it sticks to everything. And that also, oh, by the way, is why you really do want to wear short sleeves, because otherwise it'll be sticking to you. If you are wearing long sleeves, make sure you roll them up to your elbow at least, and never wear good clothes when you're working with mesh. You'll be sorry. I have ruined a couple of nice sweaters, not thinking what I was doing, with lots of snags on it because I didn't have enough sense at the time to change my shirt. Don't do that. Don't be me. You get to learn all of the no-nos from me, so you don't do them, okay? So that's there. That's ready to go. And as you go, if you see any threads sticking out, that's a good time to trim them off so you don't have to go back later to find them and trim them. It's harder on the solid colored mesh to find them because it blends in better. That's a good and a bad thing. Let me see. Next piece. I love this emerald green. Alright, I've got my pipe cleaner right where I need it. I'm going to fold this in half. I've unrolled it with the curl side down. Other types of poofs are done with the curl side up, but this is always curl side down. Folded it in half, found my center, started my ruffle. I'm kind of tugging on the mesh as I'm gathering it when I hold up my hand at the top of the mesh. I find that I get a better gather and more consistent as far as it being straight down the center on my gather and not lopsided. I like this one better. See, I'm going back and forth. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't care for doing things exactly the same every single time because I find that that gets monotonous. And on days where I'm making product for shows, sometimes I'm making anywhere from 8 to 12 storm door wreaths in a day. And the last thing I want to do is do things exactly the same every single solitary time because I would get bored. And I want this to stay fun. So I put my outside cut edge over my inside cut edge. My outside cut edge over my inside cut edge. Holding it at the pipe cleaner, I'm adjusting this side a little bit. That one came out good. And this one happened to curl itself under all by itself, so I don't have to do it. Sometimes it's cooperative. Other times it makes you want to pull your hair out. But it's just so pretty. And most of the deco meshes out there like this are water resistant because they're mostly a plastic material. There are some that have fabric in them or are all fabric. You'll notice the difference. They're not as stiff and they are a little floppier. That's the only way I know how to describe it. Most of the fabric mesh that I use still has some plastic in it, which makes it hold up to the weather really well if it were to get wet. This water would just drip off of it. Okay, curl side down, fold it in half, put that clip up there, bring the rest on the table, fold it in half, start your ruffle with your thumbs always outside. I always start with all my fingers to get it started, and I hold it up there with one hand. Just curling up that mesh in the center. The clip really helps with the solid color ribbon mesh because you can focus on it as you're ruffling so that you keep it as centered as possible because it's easy to get off track and head one way or the other. Okay, that's ready. I had my pipe cleaner ready in front of me. It's horizontal. Now I'm going to put in the mesh vertically. Putting that pipe cleaner right next to my fingers because my fingers are the center of the piece of mesh. Tight and low, twist, twist, twist. Okay, so outside cut edge over inside cut edge, outside edge over inside cut edge. If you get a string loose on the outside edge of the mesh, it's okay to pull it off. Just don't do it too many times because then you lose your edge. Just one piece isn't going to hurt anything. Okay, I'm going to see that one's off a little, so I need to pull up here. Okay, a little bit more. Do it from underneath. Okay, that's even. This side's off a little, so I need to bring that up a little. I'm holding it from the pipe cleaners. Okay, there we go. See, then you've got this one. I'm going to pull it out a little more because it's bigger on the inside than on the outside. And we want it to be at the same placement as the rest of these. The pipe cleaner's in my way. Pop some of these bubbles out. And try to curl it under. This one wasn't as cooperative as that last one. Okay, so now we finished the first layer of mesh. It's time to start playing with the ribbon. Okay, since it's already folded for you, if you are doing this and it's not a kit, that's another reason to have the ribbon. I mean the ruler. Rulers are 12 inches. If you just wrap your ribbon around your ruler 12 times, that will give you 12 pieces that you need for your project, okay? That's standing up a lot. Anyway, I gotta ignore that. So when cutting the ribbon, this is how I recommend doing it, especially if you're brand new at this. There are 6 to 7 pieces on each side of the center. So we're going to find the center. And you notice the back of the ribbon isn't as a prominent of a design as the top. So we're putting our fingers between both sides of the bundle so that half of the ribbon has the finished side facing the ceiling and half of the ribbon has the finished side facing the table. We're going to cut up where the folds are, all of them at once. I have at least one finger in between the center to hold them. And then I'm going to do it again up here. And now you'll see them separated. Now that bottom part of the bundle is facing the table and the top part of the bundle is facing the ceiling. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this side so that all of them are finished side facing the ceiling, okay? And then the next step is to fold them all in half, and I recommend having the finished side on the inside because we're going to make the bundles with them when we're done with the prep work. Okay, and I'm going to fold them all, make a nice crease down here. Get them all folded. One by one. When you're more adept, you can cut them and put the V's in the end all at once by holding 3 to 4 pieces of ribbon all at a time and just folding them and cutting them. But we're all beginners here, and if we're not, I'm just being overly cautious because that's how I roll. I don't like to waste product. We're doing it one by one. Also, I'll point out another thing. In this design and in this design, the pattern goes both ways, meaning that there are shamrocks facing this way and there are shamrocks facing that way. So it doesn't matter how you place them in the wreath. But if you have a directional ribbon is what it's called, where the design only goes one way, you need to be cognizant of that when you put it in the wreath. When that's the case, I put every other one way and every other one the other one. So if this was directional, I'd put it in every other pipe cleaner like this, and then in the other 3, the ones in between the first 3, I would flip it around and put it that way. That's how I address it. If you don't want to do it that way, just look at how your customer or you will look at that wreath and figure out what your top and bottom is, and make sure that none of your ribbon looks like it's upside down. So I'm going to do the other patterned one first. Find my center. This one's a lot more obvious. What's the back and the front of the ribbon? I always do this first because I want to make sure all my ribbon's ready to go, and I don't have any problems if for some reason I had to walk away and come back and work on my project. I always get them cut. I always turn them all the same so that the finished side is facing the ceiling, and I always fold them in half before I leave the table for any reason. Because with the solid color ribbon, which you'll find out in a moment, there is a right and a wrong side, but if you drop it on the floor and pick it up and try to figure out which is which, it's much more difficult to do than it is with the patterned ribbon. If you don't have time to do all your ribbon and then get up and walk away, make sure you at least get this done with the solid color ribbon first, okay? Because then that way you don't have to come back and be frustrated and go, crud, what side's the right side, the wrong side? Your customer's really not going to see it. It's more about your peace of mind than anything. We are our own worst critics. As my coach calls it, it's called imposter syndrome. We're hardest on ourselves. Okay, that one's almost done. Okay, So here we are with the solid color ribbon. I usually do it first, but I didn't do that today. So it's folded so that all of the finished side is facing the outside of the bundles on both sides. So you start knowing that. Then you just have to find where the fold is and find your center. You're still going to do the same thing as you did with these. You're going to cut it at the top, making sure you have at least a finger in between both sides. And then you're going to cut it at the bottom of the bundle. Alright. Now remember, finished side is up on this side of the bundle and finished side is down on this side of the bundle. So we're going to turn the bottom ones upside down onto the other. And now you have your finished side facing the ceiling on all of them. And then just go ahead and fold it again, just like with the other ribbons, so that the finished side is on the inside of the fold. Okay? All right. Okay, so we're almost done here, and then I'm going to show you how to cut these all. All right. Before I do that, I need another drink of soda. I decided soda instead of water today. Probably should have got the water, but I did soda. Better. Now I'm going to real quick check and see if I have 13. I should. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm going to put the 13th piece aside because I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you some troubleshooting ideas so that if you do make a boo-boo, several of the boo-boos can be recovered from. You can salvage the ribbon. 13. So pull. Okay, I pre-cut everything except for a few so I can show you how I did that. So what you're doing is you're taking the folded side of your piece of ribbon after you've folded them all in half, folded side down on the table, cut side to the ceiling, finish side on the inside of the ribbon. You're going to fold it directly in half, wire to wire, so that you can cut it from this new fold at a 45-degree angle to the wire, okay? See that? There you go. Folded side down, cut side up, fold it in half, wire to wire, cut from the fold to the wire at a 45-degree angle. Okay, one more time. Folded side down, make sure these are even. Fold it in half, cut it from the new fold to the wire at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so there is all of that. Now, I mentioned troubleshooting, so I'm going to show you a couple of common mistakes and how you can come back from them, and then one that you can't come back from. So that's why it's important to do one piece of ribbon at a time. So I'm going to put a folded side down on the table with the cut side to the ceiling, but I'm not going to be cautious enough to make sure that my wires are meeting up. Let me bring this in closer. So see how these don't match up? I'm going to fold it in half, like you're supposed to. I'm going to cut from the fold to the wire. If you look closely, this V is a lot smaller than this one. So it's easy to fix. You go back and you make sure that these wires are even with each other. You still have your folded side down. You fold it directly in half, making sure those wires are right lined up. Cut just below where you cut before at a 45-degree angle. Oop. And now it's healed. Okay. Another mistake that people make, cut that off so I can use the same one each time for this. Another mistake people make is that they may have it folded right with the folded side down and the cut side up, and they fold it in half wire to wire, but they cut from the wire. Say for example I'm holding it this way instead of the other way. and they cut it from the wire to the fold. That's backwards. Look what happens. Whoopsie. Wrong direction. Again, that's fixable, but you're going to lose some length on your ribbon tail. You're going to fold it in half again and cut it properly from the fold side to the wire. Not right. It's always fold side to the wire, and it's fixed. But look how much I lost. I'll give you an idea of the length. You could probably still use it. I would save it for bows or something like that. See how much shorter that turned out? Okay. I'm going to use the same one again. No, I'll use this one. I have a spare over here. That's enough for that poor piece of ribbon. This is solid colored green. So I'm going to fold it in half. I'm not going to pay attention. Let me cut this off so we're starting fresh. I'm not paying attention. I'm talking to my friend, and somehow the fold side gets up to the ceiling and the cut side gets down on the table, and I'm not paying attention, and I'm folding it. I'm still not paying attention, and I cut it. This you cannot recover from. This means you need a new piece of ribbon. There's one other thing that you can do that you can recover from. I should have done that last. Oh well. Fold it side down, cut side up, fold it edge to edge, wire edge to wire edge. But I'm going to cut it way down here instead of at a 45-degree angle. See how deep that cut is compared to that one? What's going to happen is if you keep it like that, the ribbon is going to fold upon itself like this in the creation, and that's not a good look. You can fix that, but again, you're going to lose some of the length in your ribbon tails. But if you're careful, not much. I folded it, folded side down, cut side up, and I'm going to take that cut all the way over here back to a 45-degree angle. And there you go. I've recovered that piece of ribbon. So there's that. Alright, so I got the V's, the V's, the dovetails, whatever you want to call them. The design cut in all the ribbons. So now I'm going to make bundles based on how I want the ribbon to go in my wreath. So I'm going to put this one at the top and this one at the bottom. So that means this one goes finished side on the inside of the white one, and then this on the back side. So that when I lay them out to ruffle them, that's the order I will see them in, okay? So I always do that right away. It helps speed up the process when we get to putting it in the wreath, okay? So hopefully those troubleshooting ideas will help you power through, because no mistake, except for cutting it on the wrong end, can be recovered from. Every mistake can be recovered from. It's a learning experience. And that's why I give you the extra piece of ribbon for each style in your bundles. And I give you an extra piece of mesh so you have a little wiggle room, but not a lot. I don't want to give you too much because the whole point is not to have a bunch of leftover product if you're just doing this for yourself. In my case, I love leftover product. You can kind of see that from the back behind me. I'm pretty well stocked for quite a while. My husband says I don't need any more, but we don't listen to him. There's always something new and different I gotta have, right? We don't want to make the same thing over and over. We want to keep our creations unique. And that's why I just don't play the same videos and make the same kits year after year. You're going to get at least a couple of years. See, me talking. Out of each of these wreaths that you make, maybe longer, especially if you have them in the house and not outside. I'm south facing, so these were extra for the samples. Mine have a 2-year lifespan because there's sun on it constantly. Okay, so here we go. Bring this back over. Now with the mesh, I had the pipe cleaners horizontal. For putting in the ribbon, I have it vertical. So I'm going around, turning the wreath as I go, getting my mesh and my pipe cleaners in place. So I'm ready to go. And for the bottom level only, you can do this on the top layer too, but I do something different that I'm going to show you. So on the bottom level only, which is where we're working now, I'm going to take that and unfold it, and where I've creased it, I'm going to ruffle it up and then hold it with my thumb and forefinger. And then I'm going to fold these tails outwards towards me and the end of the table, okay? I'm going to bring my wreath over here, and I'll bring the view back out in just a moment. I want to do one more before I expand the view. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to tight 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to twist upwards till I create a 1-inch twist. And then I'm going to take the wire cutters and I'm going to cut the excess above the twist off. Tuck that pipe cleaner into the mesh towards the center of the wreath and out of the way. Now, why did I adjust the ribbon to an inverted V or an upside down V towards the outside of the table before I put it in? That was to help it stay in position. It's going to creep up into here as we work on it, but this minimizes it. So the next step is to take the top 2 ribbons, separate them out, and put the bottom one in position first, which I want to put that on the top. I want to put the white in the middle, and you notice I'm running my fingers over the edge as I do it, and then I'm going to put the shamrocks on top. But on this side, to give it more character and dimension, I'm doing the opposite. You still always do the back pieces first. Bring it out to the front. So it's in the front on the left side and on the top back on the other side. Do that 2 more times. Bring that white one out and position it. And I'm going to make sure all these little bubbles are out, and I was going over the edges with my fingers to keep them nice and straight. And I like to, on the Stornville wreaths, you don't have to do this, I like to push it down a little bit more so that it stays that nice and thin depth. And there you go. So let me do it 2 more times and then I will bring up the camera. Again, like with the mesh, we're doing every other. And since it's not it's not directional ribbon, I can put it in without paying attention. I'm gathering it where the crease was. I'm taking in my other hand and pulling the ribbon out to the edge of the table, making sure the tips of the ribbon are even so you don't have one side longer than the other. I already have my pipe cleaner positioned vertically so I can put in my ribbon horizontally. I'm going to twist this pipe cleaner tight and low a couple, 3 times. Then twist upwards till I get about an inch twist, and then I'm going to cut the untwisted section of the pipe cleaner off, tuck it into the mesh, and position my ribbon. Pop those little bubbles out a little at the beginning, see if that helps. Lift the top 2 ribbons out, position this one, lift the top one out, position this one, and then position this one. You can be pretty aggressive with your pulling, just don't ever pull ribbon from the ends or fluff them from the ends. Ribbon can fray as well, not as easily, but the less you handle any of this, the better. So we're going to lift that up, put that there. That's doing its own thing already. We'll fix it in a minute. We got them positioned. I like to hold it down and position the ribbon. Let's press it in a little bit more. Skip that one. We're coming over here. Okay. One more time for you. Ruffle the center. Pull down the edges. Keeping it in your thumb and forefinger. Putting it into the vertical pipe cleaners. Keeping those V's out to the edge, because on this layer, the only ribbon you're going to see is what's on the outer edge, because you're going to do this layering one more time. 1, 2, 3, tight and low, then upwards to create a 1-inch stub of twist. Cut the untwisted portion of the pipe cleaner, throw it away, tuck that pipe cleaner in, and position your ribbon. I'm lifting these up pretty roughly, pulling this in place. When I'm not on camera, I'm a little bit more aggressive. I don't want to scare anybody. And I'm quicker. It does slow you down to talk. It absolutely does, but I enjoy doing this for you guys. So I pop that bubble out. It tends to get these like bubbles because of the gathers. I try to pop those out. Lift, separate. Lift, separate. Okay. Now I'm going to hold it at the top. Get these all. We want them all facing the edge of the wreath. Alright? So let me bring it back out now. Okay. Now we're going to go back and do the other 3. That layers them nicely on top of the other 3. I've already positioned my pipe cleaners vertical. So I'm just going to gather, pinch, and flip the ends out to the edge. Tight and low, 1, 2, 3. Twist up, 1 inch. Cut the excess off. Tuck the pipe cleaner. Lift and separate, position the ribbon. Do the other side, and if you notice, I'm turning it most of the time so that I'm not contorting myself. Makes you get sore faster. This is a definite arm workout. I'm not even kidding. On those days where I do many on one day, let's just say my arms are sore when I go to bed. I'm no spring chicken. I'm admittedly out of shape, but I'm working on it. Okay, next. Pinch. Flip out to the edge. Make sure they're even. Vertical pipe cleaner. Twist tight and low. 1, 2, 3. Upwards 1 inch of twist. Cut off the excess. Throw it in the trash. Tuck in the pipe cleaner. Now, there are a lot of times I even don't cut the pipe cleaners until I'm done. It's entirely up to you. I'm trying to do everything as I go for the tutorials so I can create good habits for you guys as well. Consistency is important. Okay, I'm going to pop that big old bubble out there. Lift, separate, and position. Lift, separate, and position. All right. See how it's coming together? We got one more on this layer, and then we're going to go back to the mesh again. Ruffle, pinch with your thumb and forefinger, pull the outside tails towards the edge of the table evenly. Put them in the vertical pipe cleaner. Tighten low, 1, 2, 3, then upwards to make an inch stub of twist. Cut the excess untwisted pipe cleaner. Tuck that into the mesh towards the center of the wreath because no one will ever be able to see it there. Unless you get up and it's business. There's no reason for that. Lift and separate. Lift and separate, lift and separate. And then position. Okay? So there is the first layer complete. And it's time to put some more mesh in. Okay, so we're going to bring the 6 pipe cleaners on the center 2 rings up in between each piece of mesh from the bottom layer and spread them out horizontally to you. So I'm putting it between the 2 pieces of mesh, not through the mesh. We do not want to put it through the mesh. In between the mesh. That's 2. Now that all this product's on here, it's going to fight you a little bit. Not the biggest deal. Putting that horizontal to me. That's trying to hitchhike. Darn mesh. Up through the mesh. Horizontal. That's 4. 5. Up in between. And last but not least, the 6th one. Up in between. And it's ready to go again. So here we go. Making sure one of the pipe cleaners is in front of you. Horizontally, you're going to take the mesh. Uncurl it onto the table. Curl side down. Always curl side down. Clip it at the top. Fold it at the bottom. Ruffle it up the center. I should have weighed it down because it's curlier now. That's okay. thumb and forefinger, adjust the mesh by keeping your thumb and forefinger loose. Adjust it at the base of the pinch. We're going to put it in, and turn it this way a little bit, slight angle. So the pipe cleaner is this way. So the mesh goes in the opposite way. Tighten low 3 times. And then we're going to take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, the outside edge, cut edge over the inside cut edge. This one does not meet that one there. So I'm going to pull it from the base of the pipe cleaner, holding the pipe cleaner while I do it so that I don't untwist the pipe cleaner. This is the top layer, so you're going to see a little more of the mesh, so it's a little bit more important to make sure that you have that perfect circle out there. Not perfect, but as close to circular as possible. I put those pipe cleaners out of the way for now. I'm going to skip one just like we did on the bottom layer. Do the first 3. Unfold it on the table, curl side down as always. Clip it at the middle. Go to the other end, find my center after folding it, and I'm going to use this to weigh it down because this is further into the bundle of mesh, so it's much curlier. Now I can take it off now that I got started because I can put my hand there. Stay as close to the center as you can using that chip clip to keep you focused on the center. Alright, I like this side better. So we'll see what we got here. Get that adjusted. Grab hold of it, put it in there vertically. Bring up that pipe cleaner, tighten and low, twist it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to put that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Okay. This side needs to be adjusted, I think, yeah. So it's the outside that needs to come out. A little bit more. I may have put the pipe cleaner too tight. Oh, I'm grabbing both sides. That didn't help. That's what the problem was. Okay. Up here is still not going to be seamed. It's all going to be covered, so it's important to have that outside edge. Good to go. Never grabbing the edge of your mesh. That one was a little more difficult. That happens. Fold it, curl side down, fold that edge, find your center, put it there, go to the other end, fold it there, ruffle, 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 keeping that thumb on the outside of the mesh to gather it all in. Using the thumb and forefinger to hold it, even at the edges. Okay, come over to the pipe cleaner, lay it in there vertically, twist, tight and low at that center point, tight and low, 1, 2, 3, outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, outside edge over the inside cut edge, make sure everything's good. Curl those edges under if you can. That's the first 3. We've got 3 to go. If you can hear my dog, the trash man's here. Yesterday it was the mailman. Curl side down. Fold it in half. She is the police of the street sometimes. Fold it. I don't know if she's happy or she's upset they're here. I haven't quite figured that out. They can't tell us, so I'm going to say she's excited, not upset. Because she goes out there and she's just wagging her tail at the same time. So that's gathered. Doesn't look very good. What do I do? Okay, that's right. Okay. I'm going to turn it a little bit because I'm going to put this side to the outside. I like that a little better. Should look the same on both sides, but it's almost never exactly. So that's why we adjust it a little. Ugh, tight and low 3 times. 2 to 3 times, that is. You don't want to do more than that because it makes the wreath thicker, and it also uses up your pipe cleaner too much, and then you may end up with not having enough room for your ribbon. And it also makes all your elements flimsier in the frame, and you don't want anything flimsy. You want it secure, and you want it to stay in its home, stay in its place. Okay, that side is definitely off. There we go. So outside cut edge over inside cut edge, outside cut edge over inside cut edge. I'm going to bring this up a little more in the center. Always grabbing it from somewhere other than the edge. Yes, I did it closer to the edge up here, but it's up here and I don't care. No one will see it. Let's come over here with all of the working on the wreath. The pipe cleaners relocated themselves unnecessarily. So I just made sure that it was horizontal again. I'm putting it curl side down on the table, folding it in half, using a clip to hold it in place and to find my center as I'm watching, as I'm gathering up to the top. Fold in half, gather, gather, gather. I feel that my mesh is more effectively gathered when I do the one hand technique with the one up above. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, I'll do the same direction this time because this ruffle looks good. Let's see how it looks once it gets into the frame. Bring it over to me, tight and low. 1, 2, 3. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside edge, cut edge over inside cut edge. Pop this up a little bit. I just have to make a slight adjustment over here. And it looks here maybe a little bit. And then we're set. Okay, so that leaves us with 1 to go. And I have 1 extra, which is what happens when you get a kit. That one's good. So we're coming over here, making sure it's horizontal, the pipe cleaner that is. Using the table to unroll a curl side down, fold it in half. There's my center, clip it there. Bring it all up on the table. Do the same thing on the other end. Put my fingers on the outside and start to ruffle. No, put my thumb on the outside. Use the rest of my fingers to ruffle. Last but not least, bring it into your thumb and forefinger loosely. Make any adjustments you need to the mesh so that they're even on the top and the bottom cut edges. Bring it over to your wreath frame. Put the mesh in vertical to the horizontal pipe cleaners. Right where your thumb and forefinger was should be the center. Put it in there, tight and low, twist it 2 to 3 times. And once again, I'll remind you, if you see any strings hanging out, cut them before you move on so that you don't have to come looking for them later. And again, on the solid colored mesh, it's a lot harder to find them, so it's best to do it as you go along. Your customer probably won't see them, but you always want to give them the best of yourself in your projects, if this is for selling. All right. So there's the last of that. It's time to make a decision. And I know what mine is, but I'm going to show you both options. You can either put your ribbon in again like you did on the bottom layer. You did mesh ribbon, so we could do mesh ribbon and then layer the sign on top. but I'm going to choose the other way, which is my favorite way. I'm going to put the sign in first, and I'm going to put the ribbon on last so that it frames it. Okay. If you're having like a heart shape or a shamrock or anything other than a square or a circle, I recommend, more than likely, you're going to want to put the sign on top of the ribbon so you can still see the shape. But since this is a square, I'm not as concerned. So I'm going to stand for this part. And I'm going to make sure right away I position 2 of the pipe cleaners, top and bottom, at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. That's how I know where my center is. And then I have the 2 on the sides, and move those out of the way. The pipe cleaners, that is. And then I'm going to pull my pipe cleaners out from behind the sign so I can see where they are. And they're easily accessible. And I'm going to place it in the middle, centering it where these 2 pipe cleaners are. The P in happy is the center on the top, and the A is the center on the bottom. But there's also a design here. So I'm going to use the design to place it. And then this looks to be the center, which is halfway between these 2 pipe cleaners on each side. So that's how I'm going to place them. Okay, I'm going to sit down for this. I have a broken floor mat, chair mat, and the chair gets stuck in it all the time. All right, so get this out of the way. That's from the side. I'm going to put this needle that I was talking about, the plastic embroidery needle with the big eye, through the mesh all the way through the wreath, slightly under the sign, so that once I get it pulled through and settled in place, you won't see the pipe cleaner at all from the sign. This is where, if you don't have the embroidery needle, you'll get frustrated a little bit. Most of the time the pipe cleaner goes through the mesh pretty easily, but not always, and it gets frustrating. So I'm now putting the pipe cleaner through the needle, folding the tip so the pipe cleaner stays on the needle till I get it all the way through, and then I'm going to pull it off of the needle. I recommend when you put your sign on your wreath that you do it in an X pattern so that your sign doesn't end up cockeyed on one side and lifted on the other once you get it settled in. So let's make sure everything's still where it needs to be before I put more through. It comes over just a touch, so that means I'm going to use this one. I'm going to put it through the mesh, feed it through a little bit so I can reach the eye of the needle. Pull it through, and that's the first 2. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and go to the back of the wreath and put this on here to protect the sign when I lift it. I'm going to hold that there, flip it over, and I'm going to go ahead and attach the pipe cleaners. Let's see if you can see this. Everything's so green. Here's one pipe cleaner. I'm going to attach it to the first ring on the frame. I'm pushing down a little bit on the wreath and the sign so that sign sinks in just a little bit, and then I'm just twisting the pipe cleaner around the frame until I run out, making sure the sharp pointy tip of the pipe cleaner is pushed back down through towards the front of the wreath so it doesn't scratch someone's door. And I'm going to lift it, and I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing with the other one. Bring it through, attach it by twisting it all. I do not cut these off because you never know if you're going to take it off and put it somewhere else. Sometimes the signs do outlast the mesh and people want to use the sign again. I've done that and put it into a new frame. So I like to keep it on there in case I get one of those. So that kept it even on both sides here. So now I'm going to go do these 2. Where did I throw my needle? There it is. Alright. Put this through the mesh just under the sign. Take it all the way through. Put that on the needle like that. That one's through. Come back up here. Bring it back out now, so you don't miss anything. I'm notorious for working off the table. My apologies. Bring that there, just under the sign. Put that pipe cleaner through the eye of the needle, fold it over so it doesn't come off of the needle, and pull it through everything. Just make sure when you're pulling it through, you're not putting it through any of the ribbon. Make sure you move it out of the way. So I'm going to put this back on there to protect the sign because you never know what's on the table. You don't want to scratch your sign. Been there, done that. Very frustrating. Those are the ones that usually end up being mine. Put it around the frame. Till it's gone, poking that tip in underneath. I'm going to lift it up. Do the same thing on this side. That bubble wrap is still right under the sign so it doesn't get scratched. Twist it around until it's gone. And while you have it upside down like this, see if there's any frays you missed. Make any trim jobs you need to do there. They'll fall off when I turn it over. Okay. And there is the sign. Let me turn it back around so you can see it. There you go. And now it's time to put the ribbon on. All right. So I'm going to do the sides and then I'm going to do the ends at 6 and 12 o'clock because I like the way the ribbon lays over the ribbon bundles on each side when I do it that way. So I'll do this one, then this one, then this one, and then these two last. So let's get started. All right, this time I'm not doing the V formation. I'm doing what I call a starburst. I'm gathering it at the crease, putting it in my thumb and forefinger, and this time I'm not making the V's. I'm just putting it into the pipe cleaners, which should be vertical. Put those ribbon tails in horizontally. Tight and low 3 times, 2 and 3. And this time, I'm not going to do it opposite on each side. I'm going to do it opposite every other. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to put the stripe, lift and separate. I'm going to put the stripe to the outside in this bundle, white to the middle, and the clovers, shamrocks to the center, and I'm giving it a little bit of curl. I'll do it one at a time on this side. So I'm lifting and separating, then I'm positioning, then I'm going to give a curl, then I'm going to lift and separate again, give it a little curl, and then position this one. All right? I'm going to wait to the end to show you what to do with these. We're not cutting them. Ruffle. I wasn't very good. I didn't get all my pipe cleaners positioned. Put that in there. At the crease, tight and low 2 to 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm doing opposing, so on this one, the plaid is going to be lifted and separated and put at the top. You're still doing it from the back to the front of the bundle of ribbon. Curl it, position it. So that's how it's going to go. Every other is going to have the shamrock closest to the sign, and then the other 3 in between those will have the shamrock closest to the outside of the wreath. All right? So sometimes they don't like to cooperate. That's why it's important to keep what you're working on directly in front of you so you can get it positioned correctly. So remember I said I'm not doing those 2 yet. I'm going to come over here and do this one after I get rid of this fray. There we go. Ruffle. I forgot to get my pipe cleaners ready, so see now I'm having to multitask. Put it in there, tight and low 2 to 3 times. I'm going to do this one exactly the same as that one because that's every other. All right, so we're going to lift and separate, bring the plaid down to the center here, outside of the wreath. Then do the same thing with these 2, position the white one. I'm not going to curl it as much as I can, which you can do with the little wooden dowel if you like it. Give it real curl. That's up to you. I'm going to make it in a traditional Stormore design. So I'm going to lift these two, bring the plaid out front, pop any bubbles out, then do the same thing with these two. Lift, separate, and position. A little bit of an angle to it, so it covers the sign a little bit, but not all. And then we're going to do this one. There's a lot of electricity in the air. That piece of ribbon was attached itself to my hand. Put that in there. Now remember, you can do the V, inverted V, just like I did on the bottom. You're going to show a little bit more of the mesh that way. That's entirely up to you. Okay, so now we're going to go opposite again. So I'm lifting these two away from the plaid. I'm not holding on to the ends that are cut because we don't want to fray it and have to trim it. Every time you have to trim it, it takes off the length. The less you have to do that, the better. Lift, separate, position. Lift, separate, position. And then this goes out here. Curl it a little bit, running your finger over the edges. So now I'm going to do the bundles at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and then we'll be finished with putting the ribbon in. Ruffle. Place it in the pipe cleaner, twist it 2 to 3 times, tighten low. Separate your ribbon, so this is going to be opposite of this. So these two are the same, and this one will have the plaid to the outside. White in the center always, and the shamrock on top. Other side now. And the getting the bubble out and running your finger over the wire and positioning often happens at the same time. When you get more proficient, at least it has with me. Now we'll do the final one, and then I'll show you a couple of options for the pipe cleaners. Ruffled that crease, put it in the pipe cleaner. Just move it over a little. There we go. There we go. 2, 3. So on this side, the plaid goes up, the shamrocks go down. So lift, separate, position. One by one. You want to keep it away from the words so you can still see all the words. If I were going to put in an inverted V in the ribbon on this layer, it would be at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock only, so that you don't have to worry about the words being seen. Hopefully that makes sense. Lift, separate, and position. Lift, separate, and position. Pulling those bubbles out, running my fingers over them at the same time. And this one decided to have an attitude. It all wants to be up, 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 up. Okay. So that's all good. So now here we talk about the pipe cleaners. You have a couple of options. You can twist them like you did multiple times till at least an inch, then cut off the untwisted end and tuck it up and under your ribbon. Twist it more than I just did, so that all you see is a little stub. Or you can do what I'm choosing to do today. Let me fix my ribbon now that I'm jacked it up. If you're going to do that way, do the pipe cleaner behind the ribbon before you fluff out the ribbon. Then that way it's out of the way and you're not messing up your work. Okay? I choose to do curly cues. Now the first thing I do is if the pipe cleaners don't measure up even, I cut the one that is not even down to the other. And this is where the pen, pencil, or this little dowel, whichever you have, comes into play. And you're going to twist the pipe cleaner around the dowel away from you on one side. You can either pull it out so you can see the curly cue, and then this side you're going to curl it towards you. And I'm just going to leave it like that. So I'm going to do that with all of these. Okay. Let me expand it back out. So those are a couple options. You can also put styrofoam balls on the tips of them. If you pull out the curly cues, you can put buttons there to add an extra accent to it. That's entirely up to you. That one was pretty even in the pipe cleaners. I didn't have to cut them even. Put that in place. That one's curled outwards. I'm going to adjust that just a little. They like to creep up. It's just the nature of the beast. Bring that here. Bring that this way a little. Curl that up a little more. I'm always fussing. That's me, always fussing. This one is not even. Reason why they might be even is if you don't have the mesh put in tightly enough, or if when you're twisting the pipe cleaners, you twist one side more than the other. That's something you have to see for yourself. I can't really visually. I don't want to confuse you. I'm curling this towards the sign on that side, on the inside. Curling it towards me on the outside. Just a cute little thing. I often, with men's wreaths, do not do it with the little curly cue, like I do hunting and fishing and some sports. But anything that I think is mostly for a female, more than likely, I like to do the curly cues, unless I put buttons on. If you want to see a wreath that I've made with the buttons, you should go back to 2024 to the sunflower wreath, and you'll see how I did that. You use buttons that have a shank on the back. This one needs to be trimmed. Barely, but enough that it bothers me. Alright, let's get these on here. Twist towards the center, then twist towards the outside of the wreath. That went fast. Okay, so now I'm just going to make sure everything's positioned how I want it to be, with the best coverage and to see the most amount of ribbon as possible. Let me go over here, turning it towards me where I'm working on it. Then I'm going to go back around the bottom and lift the top layer of mesh so I can bring my ribbon out to the edge. Don't just pull on it because it will snag your ribbon, the top layer of mesh. Lift it up and out of the way, bringing all that ribbon to the outer edge. I'm running my fingers over the ribbon as I place it so that it's nice and straight and the ends aren't curled up. Always lifting that mesh out of the way. Because it will cause snags in the ribbon if you don't. Alright. Let's do this one. Can't remember where I started. I guess I'm probably doing one again. That's okay. It's okay. Those ends curled under, not up. Keep that look nice and crisp. Alright, I think that's the last one. Yep. Alright. Alright, there it is. Let me scoot up here. Alright, you guys, there you go. It's finished. A really cute St. Patrick's Day wreath that you can put anywhere, but that is designed to put behind a screen door. It's all set and ready to go. It looks really fluffy, doesn't it? But it's amazing how thin it looks when you look at it from the side. This would be, how thick is this one? Where's the best place to measure? I'm going to go right there. So that is actually exactly 4 inches deep. And if you put it behind a screen door, it's going to push it down a little bit, but it's still going to look gorgeous and not smushed. So there you have it. Well, thank you for joining me today while I made this kit so you can see how to assemble it. There will be kits in this shop available as of the end of the premiere of the video for this tutorial. I want to say thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you learned something new and valuable to add to your crafting repertoire. I know you could be spending your time anywhere, but you chose to spend it with me today, and I appreciate that very much. If you like what you see, please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free. I'm also on several other platforms, all with the name Wreath by Marguerite. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. I do not do TikTok, but in every platform it's Wreath by Marguerite, so you can find me easily. Facebook is where I give notifications for upcoming videos being released on YouTube. So that is usually done on Saturday afternoons because my videos are almost always premiered on Sunday afternoons at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time since I live in Nebraska. So thank you again. There will be links in the comment section to the Etsy shop, so that's where you would purchase the kits as well as any finished product. Take a look at what I have in there. If you have any questions or concerns or need some guidance, just send me a message through Facebook Messenger or on YouTube. I answer them as quickly as possible. I'm pretty quick with that, and I enjoy doing that for you as well. So thanks again, and everybody have a great day. Bye for now.